Today we're diving into Manor, a medieval city builder and strategy game that's currently sitting at over 34,000 very positive reviews on Steam while still being in early access. Mostly developed by a single passionate developer, it aims to blend realistic town management with tactical battles, all wrapped into an incredibly detailed medieval setting. From the moment you start laying down roads and watching villagers build their homes, there's this grounded, almost cinematic-like feeling that sets it apart from most city builders out there. But how does it actually play? And is there enough depth here to keep you invested long term, or does the early access style keep it away from reaching its full potential? So let's take a seat and have a look together. As soon as you start the game, you get to play around a bit with the new game settings, which are actually really well done for an early access title. For example, I started off by setting up my name and portrait. And as you can see here, I went with something super endearing that will strike fear in my medieval enemies' hearts. Then I moved on and played around with the coat of arms, which in my mind is extremely cool and offered a lot of room for variety and customization. I mean, you can even save your designs and import those you like to save on time in new playthroughs. I believe eventually this could be going in the same direction as Minecraft skins, where others make cool designs and you import the ones you like for fun. Moving on from that, we get to pick a few different scenarios that the game offers. I like to see them as easy, medium, and hard. For example, Rise to Prosperity is essentially a peaceful mode with no adversaries, and a perfect place for beginners to master the early game and how to manage their town. In other cases, this could also be your safe space to make the perfect medieval city without the worry of having to fight a bunch of wars. After that, there's Restoring the Peace, where you have bandit camps pop in at random intervals. There's also an NPC Baron that controls a few regions, which you must take over if you want to win. And lastly, there's On the Edge, where you must fight for your very survival, defend from raiders, bandits, armies of other barons, and whatever else the game decides to throw at you. This is a nicely balanced array of options for different players with different needs. Maybe you just want to chill and just make the perfect town. You can do that by selecting peaceful mode and enjoying. Or maybe you are into huge medieval battles and really want to see your townsfolk fight off incoming waves of foreign militiamen. The cool thing about this setup is that you can also tweak it further by selecting how many supplies you wish to start with, how frequently bandit camps spawn in, or even how aggressive the AI opponents are and are actually going to be. It's all up to you. And finally, there are a total of 3 maps to choose from, at least from the current build of the game. I do know that the team behind Manor are working on a ton of features and new maps, but for this video I picked Winding River and loaded in. As soon as I landed in my new village camp, I started seeing various tooltips and suggestions how to get me started. These included the basics like ensuring your people have food, shelter, firewood, and so on. It's a pretty decent way to help introduce the basics without overwhelming you all in one go. Now, if you zoom out far enough, you're brought into the regional view. This helps you see the various resources you have to work with, where bandit camps are located, and even what regions your enemy owns. It's also a place for basic diplomacy, although this part seems to be underdeveloped at this point. A real far cry from what we're accustomed to seeing in civilization games, for example. Which, in my mind, is completely fine. The team making the game is rather small and it's still in early access, so bugs, missing features, and all of that is to be expected. Additionally, you can also use this map to claim new lands later on in the game and start new towns there, but I'll get into that later in the video. Since this is a city builder game, you will eventually see similarities with other titles like City Skylines and SimCity. But that does not mean that the game brings nothing new to the table. On the contrary, it brings a lot, and what it does bring, it just makes sense. For example, land plots for houses don't need to be identical. They can vary in size, shape, form, and even have upgrades later on to either introduce additional families to the same plot, or to add vegetable gardens, chickens, and much more. The houses themselves can also be upgraded if certain criteria are fulfilled. These can vary between having 3 varieties of food and multiple clothes shops in the town market. This transforms the houses from Tier 1 shacks to Tier 2 stone buildings that immediately look a lot better and cleaner. Then you have Tier 3 houses, which are rather hard to reach and are saved for way later into the game, and require a huge network of upgrades in the town to be unlocked. These upgraded houses unlock new expansions such as a tailor, a weaponsmith, a brewery, and so on, which let you better equip your armies as well as sell more stuff on the trade network. Roadwork is also super simple to work with, easy to use, and even highlights hills, which are not just a cosmetic thing. If you make a road that's stupidly long to get from point A to point B, the villagers will entirely skip it and walk through the dirt just because it makes more sense. It's a fantastic show of attention to detail that bigger game companies just straight out ignore in most cases. Oh, and before I forget, if the villagers decide to walk in the mud rather than on your paths, eventually the paths will start forming just where they're walking, kind of highlighting where you might need to put a road at. Now, as your settlement grows, you'll start unlocking policies, development directions, and exploring more trade. With these options, you can direct your village towards specific goals. Let's say you have a bunch of mineable resources, so you might want to focus on that. Or perhaps you have tons of fish, so you might want to go for the policies that focus on fishing. The drawback here is that many policies and upgrades are still locked away and cannot be used in early access, so you will be fairly limited to what you can branch into. The beautiful thing is that you do not need to do everything in one town. You can trade what you have in return for what you don't, just like in the real world. This is done through the trade network, which the game actively pushes you into to be less focused on being fully reliant on your own town, which I feel brings a lot of realism to the game. Oh, and once you have a second town built, you can then start to share resources to grow both regions independently, but together, eventually making you strong enough to beat the Baron and take his lands for yourself. You'll also need to keep track of seasons, as some food will simply not grow in the wintertime. Fish ponds can freeze, summers can have droughts killing crops and starving all of your villagers. And don't even get me started on natural disasters like fires. I made this mistake of not keeping enough idle workers in the town, as I just assumed that people would go and take care of the fire no matter what they are assigned to. Boy, was I wrong, as you can clearly see on the screen. This damned fire was spreading and spreading since I did not know that only unassigned workers will fight fires. On top of that, the well was quite far away too, so I eventually lost half the neighborhood while I was figuring out what I was doing wrong. I'm not sure if I missed this tooltip or if it never showed up in the first place, but it would really help if the game paused and informed me of such mechanics at least once before my whole town just turned into a bunch of rubble and ash. You can probably tell the world is gorgeous and truly captures the medieval European style. And by being a European myself, I can see a lot of similarities in the building design to what I've seen in old villages and their restorations. But the truly best way to experience your town is to go down to it yourself. Yes, you can jump into any point of your city and walk around every nook and cranny. See the houses, the people, the constructions, everything. And it just looks fantastic. It really brings back memories of the original Rome Total War game, which you could do a similar exploration of your cities, even if not in such foot-on-the-ground detail. Manor Lords also has a working day and night system, although it's purely cosmetic. It's a nice addition, but not something I really needed, as it just makes it hard for me to see what's going on in the town. So for this gameplay, I turned it off. Now, as this is a city builder game, you might expect that there are no battles at all, or they're going to be simplified to resemble something like Civilization games. But you'd be dead wrong. Manor Lords manages to combine city building with a Total War style unit control system. Just like in those games, you'll be issuing orders to focus on defense, directing different units to march into battle, dealing with fatigue, morale, poor terrain, and so much more. And the best part, the units will constantly change depending on what you have available for them to use. So for example, if your town is small or if you did not prepare for war, your army will also be rather small and poorly equipped. Basically just farmers with basic spears and no real armor, easily killed and not too efficient. But if you have armor prepared, shields, swords, spears, and other things, they will visibly wear them and become more effective in the fight. There is also your personal Lord's Manor, where your dedicated retinue is housed. These are upgradable, customizable professional warriors with better armor and weapons, whom you can use to defend your land. Although they are far harder to obtain, so you will be relying on your townsfolk to supply the bulk of your forces. You can also hire mercenaries, but these require monthly payments in gold, which is not the easiest to obtain, especially in early game. Lastly, as I mentioned previously, the game has different regions, and if you want to achieve victory, you will need to take these over. The easiest way to do so is by using your personal influence, which you can gather by removing bandit camps dotted around the world. You'll need a total of 1000 influence per region claimed, and enemies can come and fight you if they don't like that you're taking it over. Once you do finally claim it, you can move in a fresh settlers camp and start to grow a brand new town as if you just started a brand new game. Only now you're managing 2 economies at the same time, instead of just one. It might sound like too much of a hassle, but it's all rather intuitive and fairly fun to do. Your main city can focus on food production, while this new village can be your main source of stone and iron. It's also a great way to farm resources and gold for later game and to build up your armies to fight other barons. Now what about my usual pros and cons list? Well, we can start out with the pros. Manor Lords boast incredibly detailed visuals with 10 out of 10 building animations, feeling almost like medieval ASMR. Seeing these realistic homes get built log by log is a huge feast to my eyes. City building is polished even while in early access. Things work intuitively without feeling like a copy-pasted mechanic from City Skylines. And the non-grid-like plots with custom shapes add depth and realism. Combat was also a surprise, taking inspiration from Total War games rather than something like Civilization. The atmosphere is nailed down perfectly with a truly realistic medieval European feel. This is only strengthened by the fact that you can walk around in your towns at any point, further adding to the game's depth. And now for the cons. The tooltips are not as helpful as one might want, often lacking details on key information such as fires or diplomacy. Even with my limited time trying the game, repetitiveness started settling in already. If I had to guess, the game has around 30 hours of playtime until everything starts to feel way too repetitive. Content is also rather limited while still in early access. This includes tech trees, policy, diplomacy, and even map selection. The Total War-like combat is underdeveloped and lacks a lot of key things. If you're looking for a fully fledged out city builder with strategic real-time combat of armies, I recommend to still give it some time for development. Lastly, updates to the game are painfully slow. Even the developer himself confirmed this. Thankfully, he has now hired a larger team and is not doing everything solo, which should speed things up significantly. Overall, Manor Lords already shows incredible promise with its stunning visuals, immersive atmosphere, and satisfying city building. The mix of management and strategy feels unique, though the combat and content still need time to mature. It's a bit bare bones for now, but as the foundations go, this might be one of the best I've seen in years. Well, that's it for the video. What are your personal thoughts on Manor Lords, and do you think it will ever manage to climb out of the early access scene that so many other games fail to do? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, likes are appreciated and social media is down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.